Um, First film then is Holy Mountain, Alejandro Jodorowsky. Um, I found this film probably about a decade ago, and then really spent a lot of time with it in since kind of Arrow released their 4K version of it. But it was one of those films that was kind of like a scary one at first. I was kind of like what I'd heard about Holy Mountain, and then when I actually stepped into the Holy Mountain, it was nothing like anything I've ever seen in my life. And it's really kind of like a journey, very very much about like um, transformation. You as a viewer going on this journey of meeting these strange, like very abstract, avant-garde characters as you go on this journey to the Holy Mountain. And for me, it just was just one of those films that kind of completely changed my perspective on what film can possibly be in terms of um, performance and art and Alejandro himself is kind of almost like a mystic, a shaman almost, and that kind of it's not clear what's happening. There's no narrative necessarily that kind of you can pin that you can hang on, but the final moment of the film, if um, if you stay with it to the end, will forever change you as a person, and change your views on film and hopefully art in general. Really, he's a tarot reader, and he really made me quite interested in tarot. But the whole film, if you kind of look at it from the view of a tarot, is very much like that. These tarot characters that, yeah, the more you spend, the more the more you invest in those characters and view them. Yeah, the story's just going to keep unveiling itself to you. Yeah, one I go back to very regularly. Yeah, second film is Blair Witch Project. It's one of those films that I think people have kind of forgotten about, or it's for me definitely it kind of just it was a film that I spent a lot of time with as a younger person getting into film in the late 90s, early 2000s. But for me, it was just one of those films that I still think is absolutely terrifying, and it's a transformational film in of itself. It's these people descending into the woods and losing themselves, losing their identity and the safety, and you as the audience member being part of that with them the whole way through it. And it's so clever in the way they did it. That Eduardo Sanchez and Daniel Merrick, they, you know, they did this on such a shoestring, 60 grand. I think it was kind of what they were making that film for, and um, it changed the world. Like we're in like this horror section, and how many made found footage movies are in here, and not a single one of them probably even touches. It even comes close to what this film represents, and to the horror genre in general. I think as well. Just it shook things in the way that kind of horror has that time, but it happens time and time again. You get like the period of something new comes out, and it's not unlike anything we've seen. And this was one of those moments of I've never seen anything like it. I've still never seen anything like it. It still scares me to death every time I watch it. And I think people, if you haven't seen it, see it, and if you've seen it before, go back, because it really is one that just pays off. And this new release is pretty special, especially with the special features that are on there. I think that was one of the cool things about this as well. Is that kind of like um, everything that went with it. It wasn't just the film; it was like a time. It was like I remember there's a Sci-Fi Channel documentary or something like that about. I can't remember the name of it, but it was like they're making. But there was a documentary about the footage being found, and it like I'd saw that before the film, so I was going to the film convinced that this was like a real thing that was happening. So yeah, amazing, incredible, never to be repeated, never to be bettered, and Blair Witch Project. Yeah. Um, Next film is Deep Red, or Profondo Rosso. If you're looking from the Italian point of view, it's Dario Argento's giallo piece, one of many giallos that Dario was part of or created. This for me just kind of came at a time when I was just like totally unprepared for what this film was and what it represented to me. And I'd kind of started with Dario Argento through Suspiria, and that could easily go on like 5 films for everybody. Really, I think it's just an incredible piece. But Deep Red just is one of those films that yeah, it's a journey, it's a nightmare, it's a dream. The logic of that film is all over the place, and it's very much exactly what I think of when I think of Argento, in terms of his kind of his color palette, the music, the Goblin soundtrack. You know, a massive Goblin fan, probably because of this film. Um, yeah, Claudio Simonetti and the guys in Goblin there, you know, blasting out some absolute tunes the whole way through it. But it makes no sense, and there's a creepy doll, and it's just weird, but also beautiful, and um, really quite frightening, and very Dario Argento. Yeah, that's it. I have nothing to say about that because I'm not prepared to talk about that one. Fourth film then is not the Werner Herzog collection, although every one of them could be easily in the fourth film. But is Fitzcarraldo. Fitzcarraldo. What can you say about that film? It's like feels like the most radical piece of filmmaking. I spoke about Holy Mountain, and Fitzcarraldo, two absolute radical pieces of film. You know, just the making of Fitzcarraldo in of itself is one of the most incredible stories of, you know, this German Klaus Kinski playing, I can't even remember what kind of character he's meant to be playing, but he's dragging convinces these like native Amazonians to almost you know, these tribes in the Amazon to lift a real riverboat, like it's something like 320-ton riverboat out of the river and take it over a mountain, drop it down into the other side so that you can bring opera to the middle of the Amazon rainforest. Completely absurd, but just an incredible film, and really one of those films that just changed me and changed what I get thinking about what film could be, and kind of what that crew must have gone through in the process of making that. But also just speaks to a time as well, I think, of kind of like the 70s, where, you know, genuinely like really radical films were being made, where film companies were, you know, people would put money into like send Werner Herzog to the jungle for months with Klaus Kinski, and someone died, and Klaus Kinski's firing shooting guns out in the night, and people are being crushed by this by this boat. You know, how did that get made? I don't know, but I'm so very glad it did. It's just incredible. Um, I don't know what else to say about it, but I think you know, the Burden of Dreams is the accompanying documentary that was about the making of Fitzcarraldo. And if you rent this, and definitely rent it because it's in this beautiful box set, rent that, but also rent, if Burden of Dreams might even be separate, but take them because, and watch Burden of Dreams because um, that quest to take that ship over the thing it all was real. It all happened, and it was a native tribe in the Amazon who lifted this boat over for these crazy Germans in a rainforest. What, with Klaus Kinski? What else can you say? It's insane. Last film then is it is 12 Angry Men. Yeah, what can you say about 12 Angry Men? Henry Fonda stars in this film. Sidney Lumet directed this film. It's an absolute like touchstone of cinema, I think, and it's just one of the most, you know, quiet and kind of introspective films I've ever seen. And when this film landed in front of me, and you know, you're in from the very second this film takes place. It all takes place in one room. It's 12 jurors debating whether this teenager is gonna live, not will get the death penalty or not. And it just, you know, it just subverts your impressions of what's going to happen. It presents evidence, and the evidence doesn't change. But what this film shows is that, you know, but people can and people do, and sometimes you have to talk and you have to listen to each other in order for that to happen. And a lot of very stubborn white Americans at a time, again, you know, when that's exactly what would have been happening, making a judgment about, you know, a person of a different color, and whether that person was going to survive or not. And it just takes one voice to be the lone radical in the room who's going to change the opinions. And yet you go on that journey and you sit in that smoky room for however 90 minutes with these guys as they debate the life of a child. And yeah, transformational film for me, and again just totally shaped my impression of what film could be. And Criterion, I'm sure, I've done an absolute mega job with this version. So I'll have to rent it again. But yeah, Henry Fonda, as gorgeous as ever. Yeah, what can you say? Yeah, rent it, come and get it, because it's hard to find elsewhere, I think.